Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations. I will be forward momentarily at the top of the hour. All is truly and indeed a blessing for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Come on in, all is a blessing. Just finishing up some office work. And as soon as my co-hosts gather, I'll be ready to go. Come on in, all is a blessing. Come on in, greetings and salutations. Welcome, 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 welcome. Come on in. It's another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Coming to you live from historic Treme. All is a blessing. Greetings and salutations. Unfortunately, there will be no Blog Talk Radio today. Just us here in this sacred StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, on my EarthCam page, and wherever you might be viewing the show today. Greetings, Big Chief Kevin Turner, Big Chief, representing the West Bank. Big Chief, come on in. Greetings, beloved. Rebirth of Key, greetings. Come on in, beloved. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. And again, there will not be the Blog Talk Radio element. So if you have a question, comment, or request, I'm going to ask you to type it in all capital letters in the chat so that I can see it clearly and distinguish it from the other conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward. I'm grateful, always honored and grateful for those who take the time out of the middle of their day to be present here for another powerful edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Divine, all blessed, peace and love, joy and prosperity, elevation, revelations, and manifestation. You are now listening and sitting live with the Divine Prince, Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is indeed my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and it is indeed my ever-living reality. It's crucial. All is a blessing is crucial to the very foundation of my inner standing, my teaching, my walk, my works, ultimately my demonstration along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. It is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we're challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. And it is my personal place of power and understanding. The place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine all-blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe, Asheo, Ashe. I welcome my new listeners, my new participants who may be hearing me for the first time. I create and recreate my own reality. It suggests, it means, it creates and recreates the reality that no matter the weather, no matter the person, place, or thing, we create and recreate our own reality. We decide, we choose to be happy, to be sad, to be confident, to be inspired by, or to be reduced by. We choose in any given moment. I like to compare it to athletics, where an athlete might choose a certain degree of chosen, organized pain. And might find that 5 mile run in 32-degree weather invigorating, might find that 2 hour workout, at the gym invigorating, but do so with a goal, with a plan. We indeed would hope that our children and our grandchildren and the children of the world would understand that with a degree of work and degree of effort, there should be some outcome. There should be some payoff. There should be some creation, even if it's just within, even if it's just the satisfaction of knowing, even if it's just the satisfaction of knowing. So I create and recreate my reality. Doesn't matter who's in office. Doesn't matter who's in charge. Doesn't matter what the set reality might look like. We have an opportunity to choose and to create. I often infuse my show with quantum metaphysics. I believe there's a relationship between spirituality, and quantum metaphysics that is just now being explored universally, if you will. So science now mirrors our understanding that DNA exists in the blood. Science now mirrors our understanding that the DNA that exists in the blood carries ancestral memory, and that ancestral memory can then be passed down generationally. So our response to a thing, a person, place, or thing may very well be predicated on our Big Mama's response, Big Papa's response, our ancestors' response. And so the desire to create and recreate our reality requires first operating from a clear crystal, from a clear crystal. Even before I get into my discussion about manifestors, you must begin with a clear crystal. And I mean that figuratively and spiritually. Sometimes the PTSD gets in the way. Sometimes the post-traumatic slave disorder gets in the way. Sometimes your past hurts, breaks, roadblocks, complications, traumas can get in the way of moving forward in the present and then into the future. So manifestors are a powerful tool to utilize in doing so, in creating and vibrating and reverberating the mantra, all is a blessing. Because indeed, everything first starts with remembering to breathe and breathe again, and being sure that you're drinking clear water, plenty of clear water, making sure that you're eating fruits and vegetables, because indeed, you can't create life by living off the carcasses of dead animals, the pus and mucus of cows and chickens, artificial this, synthesized that, contaminated with pesticides and all manner of chemicals and hormones and whatnot, and expect life to come from that. Expect good life to come from that. So we also have to look at what we eat and what we consume, and then create sacred space, have a vision of light. Even in the darkness, you got to have a vision of light. Even in your darkest place, you got to be able to create, even if it's just in your imagination, what better looks like, what your goal looks like, what that thing you wish to manifest looks like. And so you reinforce that with the word, with the mouth, with the vibration that emits, the vibration and the breath that emits from the mouth. Understanding that it first has to begin in the consciousness. If it's not here in Ori, then Shango and Oya can't do anything for you. If your Ori don't allow it, if your Ori doesn't open it up. So it is from that place, creating sacred space, for indeed sacred space is critical crucial to all that we manifest, to all that we say or do or believe, to all that we think that we say, do, or believe. The creation of sacred space in any endeavor is critical. And then I will move into my discussion about manifestors. Now, I'm doing things a little differently today, as you can tell. Even where I'm standing is a little different. So let me look at my chat. Greetings, beloved. Greetings, greetings. Welcome, Danielle Jackson. Greetings, beloved. Thank you so much for being present. Your light, always a blessing. Shamafia, thank you so much. I and I alone, Ashe, Ashe, oh Ashe. Greetings and positive frequency to all that are present. Welcome, welcome. Be blessed. Yes, indeed, beloved. Divine self-healing. Welcome. Greetings, beloved. Thank you so much, Mom. Thank you so much, beloved. My mother's birthday is tomorrow, the beloved Gary Vonsell Savage. Yes, indeed. This beautiful young woman will be of age tomorrow. I don't think it's for me to tell her age, but yes, she will be celebrating another glorious and dynamic birthday on tomorrow. And I'm grateful for my mom. I'm so grateful. I can't tell you how much. Evelyn Preston, welcome, beloved. Divine greetings and salutations. Good morning. And Father be with me. Greetings, beloved. Yes, thank you so much for being present, all of you. And welcome to another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Please forgive me. Please forgive me if I move around today. I might move a little bit forward when I'm trying to communicate with the chat. I might step back when I'm just speaking and into myself. And so I hope that doesn't become a distraction to the show. I'm doing things a little bit differently. 2021 is about the doing. We shared that a little bit in the past few days. 2020 was about clear vision. Okay, 2020 was about clear vision, getting a clear vision about who and what we are, where we are. We were all made by the creators, by nature, by the universe to sit down and examine ourselves. And after you ate enough and read enough and viewed enough and listened to enough, and reached that state of, okay, what else can I do in this pandemic shutdown? It's when we really begin to see ourselves. And for some of us, that brought up some stuff. And so we know domestic violence rates are high. We know that roommate complications arose. We know that all sorts of illusions of challenge, problem, issue, and complication came out in the presence of the pandemic. I'm trying to look for another word other than shutdown. Shutdown sounds so, lockdown sounds so, I'm trying to find another word for that. It'll come to me. Maybe somebody will pop something in the chat will help me, will help me out. But it was in that moment that many of us, and particularly the spiritual among us, had clarity, had a moment of not literal silence, but figurative silence to just hear and feel and experience. And feelings is a deadly area for some of us. Once we get into our feelings, often we take a detour, from that journey that we call spirit journey that we often are on and are taking. So I wanted to talk today about manifestors, especially after our great conversation, that we had in the previous shows. I wanted to talk today about manifestors. And I realized in just using that word alone for the title, manifestors, it allowed for many different ideas to rise up in what this show might be about. And so it gave me an opportunity to bring in some new stuff last minute that I didn't think about before. So there's this new, I don't know what you would call it, program, new way of thinking about things, a new philosophy of things, you know, in what we call New Age. Everything is new and evolved and, you know, regurgitated, really from ancient ways of being, ancient ways of accessing spirit. And so sometimes in the new, we try to present things in a modern way or in a personalized way, you know, or in some way to capitalize, you know, make it into a program that people have to sort of buy in. And this program, as best as I can call it right now, is called human design. And human design is really a way of looking at humanity from a astrological, from a chakra centered base, from a spirit energy based perspective. And so it talks about types of people, and manifestor is one of the types of people within the human design that is discussed. But my original idea about manifestors, and I'm still going to talk about it, was about crystal and how to use crystal to manifest. So this human design gave me the opportunity to talk about people as a personality type who are manifestors. And as personality types, human design talks about generators, manifestors, projectors, reflectors as personality types, human character types. But those words are very common and popular in the discussion of quartz crystal. Generators. Generators typically have a flat bottom, whether natural or polished. Generators typically have a flat bottom. Reflectors might be a crystal that has what we call rainbows or mirrors in them. I don't have one near me right now. Otherwise, I'd end up walking away from the camera. But it's like a mirrored, there might be a section in the crystal, like a, I don't know why I can't find my words today. It's like a little flake, almost like a little corn flake, if you will, might be in the crystal. And then it'll either look mirrored all the way across, or it might have and present a rainbow in it. And that might reflect light. And it has a very specific job in the utilization of crystals. Projectors are also a common type in quartz crystal, where we project an energy, project a thought, project something out into the universe, send something as opposed to receiving something. We have projectors, and then we have reflectors, and then we have manifestors. And manifestors are about creating and recreating a reality. Manifesting is also about making things indeed happen in the real world in real time, but also about addressing things maybe from the past. And that's where we talk about shadow work, manifesting as it relates to getting over, healing, fixing, repairing. So as a personality type, manifestors often feel different from other people and often wonder why. They have access to incredible power, which can be turned on suddenly and without warning. This can sometimes frighten other people. And at times, even the manifestor themselves is shocked, surprised, or frightened by what they're able to manifest. Manifestors have to be in control of their lives and really hate anyone to tell them what to do or how to do it. They need as much freedom as possible to live their life and to carve out their reality, their own true destiny according to their own inner standing. They are not here to wait. They are here to initiate and have impact on others and on the world around them. And if they don't get the freedom of action that they need, then we move. A manifestor then has to move to where they can create or recreate. Sometimes that move is literal, sometimes that move is figurative. Manifestors are often restrictive, rule oriented, protocol oriented. We have discovered a formula, a way of doing things that works, that produces. But unfortunately, manifestors can also get trapped in the idea of people pleasing. Manifestors can become enablers. Manifestors can become codependent. And sometimes people are attracted to the manifestor, who's able to always make something happen, to always bring something forward, to always bring something home. And that hence becomes sort of the one version of the codependent type relationships that manifestors can find themselves in. So the idea of manifestors as crystals is to first look at healing, manifesting where we might be blocked in relationship to healing. And this human design, though they don't use the wording or make it sort of an overt part of their conversation, absolutely is pulling from chakra centers that were well understood in Indian culture, Hindu culture, Buddhist culture. That's absolutely a part of this this program. And so in using crystals to also manifest, we indeed also utilize the system of the chakras. We've reduced them and made them very simple in the West. We say 7 chakras, though there are indeed more than 7 chakras that extend from your head outward. But we've reduced it to the most basic common denominator for ease of memory, for ease of access. Many of us don't speak Hindi or Urdu or any of the other languages in India where we could indeed look at and respond to, this tradition from a more organic nature. And so I'm going to speak it from a most basic level. And then, I'll bring some more complicated stuff in there if indeed people want and are ready for that. Manifestors as crystals are clear quartz and have a fully developed clear quartz crystal embedded within them. And so often that inner baby, sometimes they're referred to as babies, is double terminated, meaning it has a point on both ends. It might be single terminated. This will be considered single terminated quartz or a single point. It has the rough or broken off end from where it was probably attached to a cluster of crystals. This is just a smaller version. So it would have been attached to a cluster of crystals and broke off or removed. And this would be referred to as single terminated point. But often your manifestors are double terminated, which means that they have a point at both ends. This is a natural, uncut, unpolished double terminator, quartz double terminator. And it not only has, cluster formations on the body, but it also has this bigger, what is referred to as an in and out crystal. And that's why I chose this manifestor in particular, because I needed a piece of quartz that would show up well on camera that you all can see. So if you can see, this baby here is otherwise a double terminator, meaning it has a natural point at both ends, and the other end is completely embedded inside the quartz. And so that formation where one end is outside the body and the other end is inside the body of the quartz. It's called often in your books in and out quartz. But when we're looking at manifestors, then the quartz is entirely embedded within the body of the mother piece. And so there are smaller double terminated points that are inside this quartz that are not as easy for me to show you on camera. Oh, wait a minute. There's one right there. That is completely inside this piece right here. That is completely inside the quartz. Hence, makes it a manifestor. And manifestors first do exactly what it sounds like. They create manifestation. Now, often we think about material manifestation, carnal manifestation, the manifestation of a house, the manifestation of a job, the manifestation of healing, a hurt, a break, a pain, the manifestation of things that we need, things that we want. But when thinking about manifesting, also joy, happiness, progress, moving from one place to another. So as I suggested, first we remember to breathe, remember to eat well, to drink clean water, to have a vision of light, even in the dark, and utilize quartz crystal. That's my basic program, and utilize quartz crystal. Now, how do you utilize the manifestor? Meditation, having a vision, being able to open and utilize your third eye, being able to activate a form of dreaming, lucid dreaming, which means that in your dream state, you're not just, sort of a participant. I'm sorry, you're not just sort of a watcher, but you're a participant. You're able to be aware that you're in a dream state. You're able to move things around in your dream state, change the outcome of a dream while you're in the dream state. That's called lucid dreaming. Transcendental meditation is, in my opinion, the best form of meditation to learn, to adapt, to pull from in order to create the energy and the sacred space necessary for utilizing clear quartz in your manifestation work. You then need to, even if you have to use your imagination, create peace, create quietness, create stillness. You do that by breathing. Some of you might have music going softly in the background. I don't know if you can hear it, but I actually got Santeria Lucomi ritual music going on in the background, usually 24 hours a day. But it's okay to have music softly in the background, as long as it's not too loud to become a distraction. And then you create a vision of light, even in the darkness. Now that has layered meanings, creating a vision of light, even in the darkness. So that could mean you might be in a dark place. You might be emotional. You might be depressive right now in the holiday season. You might even be suicidal in this season. If you could find the light, and again, these words are going to have layered meanings. The light meaning not just light, but what's your vision of what things should be? What's your vision of what things could be? Never allow it to get to a place where you can't envision light. You can't answer the question, well, what do you want? Well, what do you want it to look like? What do you want it to show up as? Because sometimes we get so stuck that we can't answer those questions. Well, what exactly is it that you need? What exactly is the problem? What is giving you pain? Because that's the doorway to shadow work. That's the doorway to the shadow work. It's when you can ask yourself, when you can put on your big girl, big boy draws and ask yourself those questions. What hurts you? What gives you that feeling of pain, that feeling of unease? And be truthful about your response. your answer. That's when we're maturing in the spirit. And it gets stuck in your body. It gets stuck in different places in your body. So sometimes during your meditation, when you get past that place of distraction, your bills, your children, remembering things that you were looking for. When you get past all of that and you get to a place where you can be still in your meditation and you can be quiet and the colors begin to come and the visions begin to come and the light begins to come. It is in that space that you create the reality that you seek. And you're manifesting quartz. I believe manifesting, not just manifesting quartz, but all quartz crystal is a creation of God. I can remember a time my mom thought I was worshiping rocks. I think we both laughed and cried at the same time. I think my mom thought I was, deifying rocks, but they are indeed tools, spiritual tools. And if you believe you can ingest ground up rocks, ground up minerals, and them do you well, then why is it hard for you to understand that we absorb this energy? We admit this energy. This energy is pervasive in the planet. Quartz is one of the most pervasive stones on the planet. And so God created these minerals as a tool. I also remind people that gemstones, crystals are mentioned in the Bible thousands of times. And there's a reason for that. When you look at that 12 gates of the new kingdom, why are they all designated by names of gemstones? And what does that really mean? What does that really represent? So I believe them to be the goddess, God, because God is neither God nor goddess, the creator's ideal tool for us to utilize through light, through sound, through vibration, through nature, to access for our indeed our healing. So it's in that sacred space that you imagine, if you have to. Use your imagination if you have to at first. So, recharge that part, that childlike part of you that could envision, that could create, that could free itself to imagine and create the space and then create the idea, reality that you seek to manifest. And the more you do this as an exercise, the easier it'll be for you to reconstruct that house in your mind, for you to see yourself in that job position or that career position in your mind. And what I'm saying has now been appropriated by mainstream culture. And you go to some career expos, for instance, and they'll tell you, envision yourself on your interview, envision yourself, use your imagination, see yourself acting out your script, doing your part, and if you can do it clearly in your mind, then it's much easier for you to do it, in real world time. And so too, great day, Quentin. Greetings, beloved. Greetings, Al Marie Jackson. Greetings. Thank you so much for being present. You can then transfer that into reality. Oh, Shamafi, I love the discussion about prisms and fractals. Indeed. Again, something that we might call New Age. I don't remember a whole lot of pictures and conversation about fractals, and as a child. Maybe prisms, because we covered that, in school. We covered that a little bit in math and in earth science, but never a discussion about fractals was that discussed. And it's now almost commonplace to the discussion, talking about math and ultimately light. Math and light, all of the vibrating molecules and atoms and frequencies and vibrations that hold all of creation together. Even when I say those things out loud, energy goes through, my body. We often forget that We are just as much God as we are science, as we are earth, or as we are mammal and animal. And when we get caught up in career and life and raising families and taking care of ourselves, we don't often have a whole lot of time to be this spiritual as this group is in this room. And so manifestors can do a myriad of things to open up your mind, to open up your conscious, to open up your third eye. Your best tool is the double terminated manifestor. Now, the single terminated manifestor is okay, and particularly in such a personalized size as this. This is one of my favorite ones, if you can tell. By the look of my face, it's just so ice clear, so ice clear. But then when you get to the bottom of it, you see that red and that green. That green is chlorite, the mineral chlorite, and that red is hematite. You're used to seeing hematite polished with that grayish metallic look, but hematite is sort of takes on a red hue often when it's embedded in quartz. And it's within that mass that my double terminated baby exists. And that's going to be too hard for me to show you on camera. This camera, we've tried this before. This camera won't pick up certain really refined detail, but there's a embedded double terminated quartz in this area. There's also phantom specialization in this quartz. And phantom quartz is that tree-like layering that you find inside the quartz that shows up almost like a ghost inside the body of the quartz. And the phantom, along with the double terminated quartz, is embedded in the chloride. In fact, the chloride actually outlines the body of the phantom quartz within the crystal. The bigger version I showed you of a manifesting quartz is this double terminator. And it has throughout the body, I mean, in many places of this quartz, are fully formed double terminators. So the in and out quartz that stick out, this is one, this is one, this is another, have a fully formed point inside the body, but there's also the fully formed double terminators inside the quartz. And your double terminator, no matter how big or small, is really your best choice for manifesting quartz. It's able to send and receive energy. It's able to project energy, reflect energy, but also take energy in and then transmute it, transform it, change it, take negative and change it into light, take bad and change it into good, take what's not necessary and change it into what's useful within your body dynamic. And once you understand that your body is not just this physical vessel that, some of you run and work out at the gym and do yoga for, and we all should be doing the best we can, for our physical vessel, our physical temple. But we cannot neglect the light body. We cannot neglect the spirit body. We cannot neglect the energetic body. These are all variations of ourselves. These are all layers of who we are each and every day. And so we often just focus on one thing or two layers and forget that we vibrate out here. We vibrate cosmically. We vibrate universally. And so doing manifestation work is one of the best forms of crystal healing that one could do, light or dark, light work or shadow work. And that's why the double terminator is the greatest tool for manifesting work, because you have to address shadow work. There is no light work without shadow work. There indeed can be shadow work without light work until you get to a certain place in your healing. You might just right now not be in a place where you can make a gratitude list. I may have shared this a little bit before. one of my homework assignments is make a gratitude list. I am grateful for. But I've been to the dark place. I've been in the shadows. And sometimes you're too heavy, you're too negative to make a gratitude list. And so in those moments, you ask those questions. What brings you pain? Why am I unhappy? Why am I feeling discomfort? Why am I not feeling, receiving, being what I would otherwise call my light, my vision of light in darkness? And when you get to a place that you can ask yourself those questions honestly and stand up in them, you can indeed step out of the darkness. You can indeed pull yourself up again and be empowered. I'm not talking a book. I'm not talking a philosophy. I'm not talking something that, I heard, you know, I'm sharing with you something that first I had to go through myself. First, I had to try myself. First, I needed to be pulled out, and there was nobody there to give me a voice. There was no one there to reach out a hand. There was no one who understood my pain. There was no one who understood my light or my vision. And many of you are in that place. Listen, you all are here for a reason. And it's not for me to determine your reason, but you all are here for a reason. You all are here for a reason. I am a reflection of you. You are a reflection of me. We are interconnected. You are either learning from my experience, learning through my experience, or reflecting some relative reality that you indeed have felt and have experienced. So I know why I'm here. Be clear about why you're here. Okay. And so the manifester is the greatest stone to use to go through, move through blocks, to utilize in healing, in bringing about balance, in finding that centering that we might be off from the usage of the manifesto. I am welcome to your questions, comments, and requests. Today, I don't have my microphone, my Blog Talk Radio, but you can indeed turn on your webcam if you follow the link that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you give me a second, I'll pop it into the chat again. Just give me a moment here. I have to hide it in order to copy it. And once I get it copied, I can save it and pop it back on the screen. And now it's in the chat. And please forgive me. I know I've done a bit of talking, so I'm a little behind on the chat. Peace and blessings, Matthew Ferguson. Greetings, beloved. Ujat Wajet. Greetings, everyone. Peace and love. Beloved Big Chief, I'm here for you. But listen, my number haven't changed. Okay. I'm here for you, Big Chief. All is a blessing. JP Terrell, welcome, beloved brother, sister. Welcome. Chef Bougie, welcome. Greetings, divine, all blessed. Greetings and salutation. Marge, Richard, Leon, greetings. Thank you again for returning and enjoying our show. S. Marie, greetings and salutations. Sandra C., one of my beloved and favorite co-hosts, when she decides to get on camera. Nina Lloyd, greetings and salutations, beloved. The Goddess Initiative, another one of my favorite co-hosts. The Goddess always got something to say, always got questions, always got answers, always got experiences, and I appreciate you for sharing your divine self here, divine self-healing. Beloved, thank you so much. Is this a question or a comment? Let's stop and look. What has been coming to her lately is how when someone you work for change in one of these areas, the others are automatically affected. So getting started is key. I'm not getting that with clarity, beloved, but I'm with you. I need you to reword that. Okay, let me say this again. What has been coming to her lately, or what has been coming to me lately, divine self-healing, is how when you work for change in one of these areas, the others are automatically affected. Okay, I got you. So getting started is key. I got you. I got you. I got you. Absolutely. Just getting started. Choose a chakra. It ain't got to be all of them. Choose one. Just get started. Choose an area. Just get started. To choose a block and move on that. Choose a room, beloved, and just move in on that. Um, you're in the room. You know what I'm talking about. Just choose a room and just get started on that. Just clear out the clutter of that. And when we're looking at who we are as people, as individuals, choose something. I want to work on my anger. I want to work on my unhappiness. I want to work on lack of control about my economy, my finances. Just choose one. Just choose one and start to work on that. You ain't got to get up and go to the gym today. Walk the block. And my mother has learned how to walk in your house, walk in your apartment, utilize the space that you have. What changes is the mindset, doing it with consciousness, doing it with an understanding that you have a set goal, that you're trying to reach a particular place, if you will. Greetings, Chef Bougie. I may have said that already, but greetings, beloved, to each and every one of you, individually, collectively. I'm always honored and appreciative when you choose to be present here with me in this created space. In the middle of your day, whatever time it is where you are, 12 noon, 12 and 45 minutes of noon, U.S. Central Standard Time here. So I'm always grateful when you're present. Those in the UK, I know you're a completely different time frame, and I'm grateful. We often neglect the universal nature of this audience. It is 2:48. No, I'm sorry. It is 7:45, almost 7:50 p.m. in London. It is 8:45 in Lagos. It is 10 minutes to 4 p.m. in Rio de Janeiro. It is 10 minutes to 8 p.m. in Cotonou, Benin. It is 10 minutes to 1 here in the beloved New Orleans. It is 10 minutes to 9 p.m. in Johannesburg, South Africa. So, and it is 12:40. I'm sorry, it is 12:20 a.m. 12:20 a.m. in New Delhi, India. So I'm always first shocked and amazed, but also humbled and grateful by the reach of this audience, the worldwide, global, international reach of what we talk about here, what we share here. I can't even in my imagination imagine, why, when we deify places like India, we deify places like Africa, we deify places beyond always your own fence. The grass is always greener. But many of our world traditions, many of our spiritual traditions are pulled from ancient cultures. So we look to places like India and the Middle East and Africa and Asia, for seeds to be planted into our modern lexicon of spirituality and religion. So when I find them here with us, it reminds me that I'm onto something when I speak of the more indigenous ancestral connection that really ties all of us together. If we go back to who our people are, whoever your people are, wherever you are in the world, there's something universal that ties them together, and it lies in the realm of spirit. It lies in the realm of usage of incense and herbs, aromatherapy, the usage of crystals, minerals, and stones in magic and ritual, in spiritual healing, in visionary work. It lies in the presence of magic, Heka, Voodoo, to be found all over the world. We understand Voodoo to be the first organized religion in the world, Voodoo. Some of you don't think of Heka, ancient Egyptian magic, as Voodoo, but rituals, offerings, feeding and acknowledging the dead, acknowledging Orisha, Loa, deity that operate within the realm of nature. Come on now, gods with hawk heads, you know, serpent heads. Voodoo is the first organized religion in the world. So when we go back far enough in our ancestry, in our DNA, in our heritage, in our lineage, we find a common ground that is universal, that's global. And I'm grateful to Blog Talk Radio and StreamYard and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and EarthCam, you know, for being able to have this place for us to come together. Marge Richard, thank you so much. Yes, come to New Orleans, please pre-plan. Don't just show up at show up at my door. I know that sounds, yeah, but people do it all the time. Don't just show up at my door. You know, sometimes I might come to the door to, you know, let some incense out onto the stoop, you know, and people will be looking at me, you know, and I'll be surprised when I say, beloved, I'm in the middle of broadcasting. Beloved, I'm in the middle of a call. Beloved, I'm in the middle of a ceremony, you know. So please, I welcome you and Mom, but please pre-plan. Please do contact me by way of email at divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. And I'll be more than happy to make time, make space, create sacred space for you. And of course, you can also contact my beloved Denise Augustine if you're interested in a tour plus experience. And so I just retyped my contact information into the chat. All is indeed a blessing. Denise Preston says, so happy to hear the subject. I'm coming to the conclusion of my shadow work. I'm dealing with a big one. So happy to get this sadness off of me. I believe she meant off of me. And I'm with you. We support you, Denise Preston. And if you aren't already, please use quartz crystal. Now, if all you have is a piece of single terminated crystal, that's great. But you want to hold it toward your palm, toward yourself when you're working with your left hand. And then equally, you want to use it in your right hand, but with the point extending away from you. So on the one hand, you're pulling in from the left side of your body, healing, receptive, nurturing energy, but you're also pulling in the memory sometimes, the shadow work sometimes, what you don't remember, what now is coming through is going to come through from your left hand, the left side of your nervous system, up the right side of your head, through your brain, and circle around and come back down through the other side. So when you're testing a crystal, when you're getting to know a crystal, when you're meeting a crystal in the store for the first time, you want to use your receptive hand, your left hand, to feel it, to receive it, to sort of tune in it in that brief moment that you have until you get it home and can then really work with it. Now, when you're purging, when you're emitting energy, when you're getting rid of, Denise Preston, you want to use your right hand and you want to turn your crystal in a projective manner. Now, I don't know how well I'll be able to teach on camera that there are projective quartz and receptive quartz. Typically, if they're more pointy like this, they tend to be projective quartz. But if they tend to be tabular meaning wider in the body, they tend to be more receptive. If they have this five sided window here, they tend to be more receptive. And of course, that milkiness, that cloudiness that you find in some crystals also make them extremely receptive. This is another receptive crystal. So you want to use them in your right hand when you're projecting, when you're getting rid of, but also when you're creating, when you're doing manifesting work and you're creating, you want to use your right hand if all you have is a single terminated crystal. And that's why I suggested using double terminated quartz. This crystal around my neck is double terminated. This stone has been around my neck since 1986. This stone has been around my neck. It's chloride, it's hematite, it's double terminated. It is a manifesting quartz, meaning it has a completely fully formed double terminated embedded within the stone. And then this one is the piece that I probably work a little bit more with when I'm working with you and your request. I'm probably more often using with stones of this size and or bigger because I'm having to reach further and I'm having to produce, which might not be personal to me. So this is my business, manifesting quartz. And because of that double terminated element, you can then purge, you can receive, you can project, create and recreate without thinking about turning hands, without thinking about the position your crystal might necessarily be in. And typically in my meditations, I'm going to hold this stone. I'm going to hold this stone in both hands, like this, whether it's in my lap, if I'm sitting, or if I'm laying, I'm going to hold it here. And in terms of manifesting, I'm going to focus on my will center. So that's your second, third, and fourth chakras, your will center. And the second, third in particular, the second chakra and the third chakra, right below your navel, second chakra, above your navel, third chakra, your will centers. We get a gut feeling about something. Something gets stuck in my craw. We're talking about the second and the third chakras, the areas that govern digestion. So again, remembering to breathe and breathe again, but also drink clear water. Make sure you're processing and you're digesting and you're eliminating regularly. You might need fiber. Add that to your diet, and nothing wrong with a little Metamucil every day, and make sure you're eating healthy fruits, vegetables, grains, when you're doing manifesting work. Because again, that's where you're pulling in from, that's where you're projecting out from when you're doing manifestation work, is your second and third chakra. Now, that doesn't mean that the first chakra, which is your basic human survival, is being neglected. It shouldn't be. It should be open. It should be rotating clear. It doesn't mean that you have ignored your fourth chakra, which is your heart center, your love center. Typically, when you're doing manifesting work, when the shadow work does rise up, come to the surface, you're going to have to process it often through your heart, particularly when we're talking about family background, generational curses, relationships with parents, children, siblings, family, friends. Your heart, rose quartz, cristola, greenstones, jade, chlorite is going to be useful. Malachite is going to be useful. Your fifth chakra, your voice, finding your voice. That's where we use our blue stones, sodalite, lapis lazuli, turquoise, sapphire. speaking our truth. So we're not neglecting the other chakras. Sixth chakra is your third eye. You need your third eye in order to envision the light, even in the darkness that you seek, that you desire. You have to have your third eye. I said that my words were simple but multi-layered, right? And that's why it takes us 2 hours to talk about it. So your chakras have to be clear. Your seventh chakra, top of your crown, has to be open. We see the chakras as spinning wheels, rotating clearly and in the right direction. So no, we can't just focus on our third and our fourth chakra. We have to have an open, clear channel. And that's where the breathing, circular breathing. When you're doing the circular breathing, you're breathing from your first chakra out your head and back. Your ground chakra out your head and back. And ultimately in a circular fashion. And that circle, just like electromagnetism, just, it circulates all the way around your body, but in a circle all the way around your body. That energy should be flowing and is flowing. So when it's blocked or you have things trapped up, then in one place, like for instance in your heart, then other things are affected. And it indeed can lead to real health problems. It is said that all of our health problems have some emotional, energetic, spiritual root. Even heart problems, even diabetes, even dental problems, that they relate back to something else that is not being addressed, that was not addressed, that was overlooked. And then that shows up, in your body. They say the sins of the parent is passed down to the child. Though I'm not a Christian, there's no greater truth than that. The sins of the parent indeed travel down to the child. So sometimes you can do all that you can do, all that you think that you're doing. And if you're not addressing your light work, your shadow work, they go hand in hand, then you're absolutely not addressing things that you otherwise would not know. Our parents don't tell us everything. Our grandparents don't tell us everything, but it's indeed trapped up in your body. It's indeed trapped up in your cells. It's indeed trapped up in your energy. So doing manifesting work, sitting quiet enough to focus on a goal, obtaining a goal, obtaining an object, creating something, also requires us being able to still our mind from the chatter, the noise, which often is our shadow work or our light work in some cases. It's not always the darkness that can be a distraction. Sometimes indeed, too much work can be the distraction. Too much of doing and not focusing on self can also be a distraction. So light work and shadow work go hand in hand. When you say one, you are inevitably saying the other. When you say shadow work, light work is implied. When you say light work, shadow work is indeed implied. It's not all flowers and roses and frankincense and myrrh. Some of us got real monsters. Some of us got real demons, and the sooner we get truthful, who and what, and then seek change, balance, direction, help in addressing that, the better for us all, for us, for our children, for our loved ones, for nature, for the planet, for all that is indeed wholeness. Denise Preston, it is 10:47. It would now be 11:05 in California. She's usually teaching, so this is a treat to be home on winter break, enjoying some tea with the Divine Prince. And I'm grateful for you. My mother, happy birthday again, Mom, is also a retired educator. So I have a certain connection to teachers. I have a certain connection to creators like Tasha's Touch, Alafia Beloved, You know, I like to bead. I like to create my own incense and body oil. I like to crochet. My sister Wapani, expert, master crochet artist. She's doing stuff that I never even thought to do, my sister Wapani. And Tasha's Touch is doing silver and copper and gemstones like I've never seen. And I've seen a lot. I'm a former recovering shopaholic. I've seen a lot. I've been to many a festival. I've seen many a vendor. Sometimes it's easy to become a shopaholic when you're a vendor. You're at the festivals. You're sitting usually between two other vendors that both have really juicy, enticing items on their table. And so while you selling your table, you buying off the people's table, to the left or to the right of you. At least that's how it was before COVID-19. Now it's a little bit more virtual, isn't it, Tosh? It's a little bit more, camera, picture, video. And so I love Tasha's Touch. I mean, she's really bending the wire, honey, in some crafty, unique ways. And I'm not just showing favor because I love Tasha. I'm talking real skill. So find Tasha on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Her work is off the hook, y'all. It's hot. I like her copper. I like her silver wraps. Very intricate, elegant, sophisticated pieces. Some of the pieces remind me of, 1920, 1940 femininity. Some of the pieces remind me of, a time when we were a little more classy. In the Black community, all Black men wore a suit, or dress pants and a dress shirt and a tie. We once existed that way. I'm not talking about the FOI and the Nation of Islam. I'm talking about the community as a whole. When you look at, video clips from the 50s, look at how we're dressed. The 40s, look at how we're dressed. And for me, it says something about mindset, mentality, dreams, hopes, how we thought about ourselves and the future, even if we didn't have, even if we were being limited in access, even if we were being in the position to have to fight for it. We had a vision. And so that showed up. And somewhere that fell off, and we got real casual, and we got real grungy, to name fashion seasons. And we lost that. And we started emulating and imitating thugs and pimps and gangsters and dirty ministers and flash and bling. And that still exists among us today. But when I see Tasha's pieces, oh my God, they're so healing and therapeutic and quantum metaphysical while still being elegant and classy and sophisticated in terms of jewelry. And I say that with great intent, because sometimes when you go to the festivals and you see copper jewelry, for instance, it's kind of rugged and new age and earthy, almost like a Lisa Bonet 1980s kind of earthy and chunky. And I know that's in style today. That Erykah Badu jewelry is still in style today. Somebody might say my jewelry is, that Erykah Badu style chunkiness. But many of her pieces are much more intricate and sophisticated and delicate than I ever imagined that wire wrapping could even go to. So Tasha, you've taken it to another level, beloved. Please, I welcome your questions, comments, and requests. Yes, Denise Augustine's website is www.oursacredstories.com. Denise typically shows up in the travel channel piece, Buried Worlds with Don Wildman. The Nat Geo piece, Atlas of Cursed Places. Curse of the Bayou, she was with me there. Um, she's one of my number one priestess, by the way. She doesn't say it, she doesn't admit to it, but Denise is one of the first ones to be there. Denise is one of the first ones to show up. Denise is one of the first ones to support. Denise is one of the first ones to bring supplies for. So she's, definitely one of my elder priestess in the ministry, and a master historian. Queen Bonita, beloved, that picture just, oh my goodness, honey. I love that picture. I love that look. I love that smile. I love that wrap on your head. Hotep Wu, beloved, Maya Hotep Wu, divine all blessed. Thank you so much for passing through. I see you in social media. I see you in Twitter. I see you on Instagram. I know you be busy, but you be present. All is a blessing. The light just jumps off of that picture. Does the size matter in terms of crystal? It depends on what you're doing. Of course, this manifestor on my neck is personal. I'm going to have to stop the scroll for a second. It's personal. For some of you, particularly for some women, this might be too big. You might say, oh, that's too much. So go for a smaller size. Now, for me, this was perfect. This is like just right at that limit for me. This one is probably about the same size. It's about the same size. It's just tabular. This is called Tabby Quartz because it's flat. The dimensions are more flat in the middle, whereas these dimensions are more round in the middle. And this is called tabular quartz, and this is regular clear quartz point. So it makes it look a little bit smaller. I intend one day to have this set, in silver, maybe gold. I don't know. I usually let the stone tell me what metal it wants to be set in. And so you could still go even a little bit smaller than this. I do have a smaller double terminated manifesting quartz. It's just not on this side of the house. I didn't think to bring it. So size matters. Is it personal? Is it something that I'm going to wear? Is it something that I'm working with on my own stuff? Then yeah, you can go, maybe this size, maybe even smaller, if you desire. If it's big, or you're someone who's already in ministry, or you're someone who's already a practitioner, a Reiki practitioner, a tarot reader, an empath, even you, Tasha, you should have a large piece of quartz, larger pieces of quartz. You don't have to show them on camera. You don't have to take pictures of them, but you should have larger pieces that you charge and clean your other gemstones with, but also the amount of energy. Tasha might not necessarily call herself a reader or doing ritual work, but she absorbs a lot of our energy, even in the course of doing her work. And I'm grateful for Miss Tasha. I see how Tasha protects herself too, in this stratosphere, in this internet stratosphere, so size matters depending on what you're doing. Is it for me, or is it for me and my family? Is it for me and my children? Is it me and my business? Is it me and all of my students in my classroom? Then you might want bigger. Same thing with amethyst. Then you might want the better, deeper, richer amethyst with a little bit of size to it. And then the size is going to increase a little bit. But if it's personal work, then it depends exactly on what you're doing. You don't want to go too small. And I've noticed that in the sort of pop cultural context, people are going way too small because they're often thinking about, well, how much does it cost? How much do I have to budget for it? And, in all fairness, I struggle through just like you. I do. I don't make my living off of voodoo. My living come off of acting. And so it ain't been a whole lot of acting. It ain't been a whole lot of gigs, you know. So my internet bill is over my head. My electric bill is over my head. I'm human. I get, I got a budget. I got kids. I got other, you know, but it's intriguing, particularly when we look at the numbers, especially from my community, what we spend on hair care, nail care, cigarettes, liquor, you know, stuff we gonna throw out 5 minutes later, you know, and we get kind of picky. You know, when I say, beloved, you need to buy a crystal, then we want the dollar basket. You know, and remember, this is medicine. I look at gemstones as medicine. This ain't just bling. This ain't, he wants to be flashy, he wanted to be blingy. He went for, that ain't what this is. This was about medicine for me. It was about healing. Even the piercing of my ear, I can remember each piercing, why I did it, and what was going on in my life at the time. Because it was about healing. It was about marking time. It was about releasing pain, releasing a block, and then energy freely flowing on to the next thing. So when I choose stones from the jump, it's not about jewelry. I had these made. I designed these and had these made. So these aren't, you know, bought in the store. This wasn't bought from a vendor. But I buy my stones loose first so that I can hold them, work with them, bond with them, create a relationship with them, just like you would any other person. And I know it's kind of weird because we're trying to identify what we say is a thing, but this thing is really a specimen. In science, this is called a specimen, and so it's a organism of its own type. That type is quartz mineral. Some would say that they continue to grow. Some would say that they continue to evolve. You do have stones that will change on you. You have stones that'll be as clear as this, and you'll examine and examine and examine, and then one day you see something in there that wasn't in there before. Particularly phantoms, particularly manifesting quartz. Some of you have quartz right now that's manifestor quartz. You just didn't know it. Go back, look at it. And I don't just look at it, I look at it as a form of meditation. You breathe. And then you breathe again. Okay. You drink plenty of water. You eat fruits and vegetables. Okay. You have a vision of light, even in the darkness. And then you utilize your quartz. And all of that goes into my mind when I'm using my quartz, when I'm scrying. It's the technical word. SCRYING, when I'm scrying my quartz. But you're also breathing. You're not really thinking about anything in particular. That way, when the ideas, the thoughts, the sounds, the harmonies come in, you know that it's an act of you and the crystal. So yeah, you clear your mind and you look at and sit with your stones quietly. You know, the kids might be asleep, might be taking a nap. You turn the volume down on the TV. You know, you take 10 minutes to just and bond. And just like the vitamin that you ingest, you're just doing this energetically. Just my mother has my largest cluster my mom has. She took it from me and put it in her grandfather clock. Okay. So just having it in your house is beneficial. But if you're talking about really doing work, and we're talking about size, beloved, about the size of your hand, about what's comfortable in your hand. And it's interesting. The stones have a feel to it that you know is designed for your hand. Only God could do that. You know, this side fits so well into, you know, the grass. And then typically when you're reversing it, in the opposite direction, you're also reversing the stone in the opposite direction. And this stone has what's called a window. That little dot, that's called a window. And there's a whole meditation you can do just with the window that allows you to open not only your third eye, but other octaves, other mansions. The Bible say, in my house there are many mansions. Other mansions open up in your consciousness that indeed allow God and spirit and the answers to give you downloads. Seriously, downloads. I'd wake up and I'd know things that I didn't know before, or I would understand things that I didn't understand before, or some scripture that I had read a million times suddenly made sense to me, but in a very different way. I call those downloads from working with quartz. And so the manifesting is another part of download, manifesting wisdom, understanding, empowerment, healing, and indeed divine manifestation of our needs and sometimes of our wants, depending on how imbalanced your light is, how imbalanced your world is. Iba Orisha, greetings, beloved Orisha. Thank you so much for being present, you and your family. Have I ever worked with the herb Daminia? When manifesting, I have. It's not one of the first herbs that I run to, but I have. And I often, particularly when I'm doing manifesting work, choose herbs that I can not only, use ritually, burn ritually, all the various ways that we apply herbs, create prosperity oil from, but also herbs that I can ingest, that I can eat, whether it's in a tea or whether it's actually in food or salad or cooked form. But I have. Greetings, please come with your questions, your comments, your requests. Don't be shy. Turn on that webcam. Come on in. What do I think about selenite slabs for cleansing instead of quartz? I'm gonna reword your question if you don't mind. What do I think about selenite slabs as well as quartz for cleansing? Not so much instead of, because they're completely different minerals. I'm going to assume that you know as much. Selenite is completely different from quartz. First, it's not a quartz. It's not in the family of quartz. Quartz includes rose quartz, amethyst, citron, tiger eye, I believe has some quartz elements. That's quartz. Selenite is a whole nother mineral composition. It doesn't crystallize in the same way. I have some, just not in this room. Yeah, I have some, just not in this room. And I don't want to walk away from the camera. But it has those long line striations in it. It's hydrophobic, meaning you can expose quartz to water. You cannot expose your selenite to water. It can dull your selenite. It'll make your selenite go chalky. You can easily scratch selenite. Selenite is much softer than quartz. So it can be brittle. It can break apart. Maintaining its relative shape, just like black tourmaline, you can break it apart and it'll continue to maintain its shape. It'll just get smaller on you. But they're two completely different minerals. I like to use them together, but I don't use one instead of the other. I'll use one for a particular reason. Selenite, brings light, infuses light, brings light where, there might not be light, whether it's literal or figurative, whether it's right where you are in your space, in your place. You can send that light to other locations, to other people, places, and things. And indeed, you can do the same thing with quartz, but quartz has a much more almost computer-like application as opposed to how we utilize selenite. Selenite doesn't hold memory the way quartz does. So selenite can infuse light and interject light. Selenite has to be protected. Selenite is considered self-cleaning, so you don't have to necessarily, you should not put water on it. You shouldn't have to wipe it down, or necessarily cleanse it after utilizing it. Selenite doesn't even necessarily need sunlight to maintain its light vibration, whereas quartz can indeed store sunlight and store energy, but depending on the formation, might need to be cleansed and or recharged. So I think they're both good, selenite and quartz. I wouldn't necessarily say instead of. Um, Quartz is the master healer. If all I had was $25, I would get the quartz as opposed to the selenite. If I already had quartz and now I want to build some variety in my medicine cabinet, malachite, rose quartz, hematite, selenite, sodalite, then I would bring my selenite, then I might go back and buy the selenite. Okay. But if I had to have just one, it would be quartz, any variety, but it would be quartz, unchipped, unbroken, in the best case scenario, uncut, unpolished. Best case scenario. It doesn't mean that a polished quartz is bad. This is polished. That's why it's so reflective. But if you see that shiny reflectiveness, what has been polished away are the records. When you look at a natural quartz up close, there's going to be records. It's going to be lines and grooves, almost like on a 45 or LP. Even on the smoothest sections of this stone, I might not be showing it very well on this camera. Yeah, even on the smoothest sides of this stone, you're going to see ridges, indentations, grooves. So this is natural, uncut, unpolished, other than being taken out of the ground and maybe given an acid wash, untampered with by man. This, on the other hand, has been polished. And it's been polished for its clarity, because of its clarity, and allow people to see that chloride, hematite background where that double terminated manifestor is hiding. And so that's probably why this was clarified, by polishing it. And polishing it makes it useful for clarity, for bringing things in through spirit, for scribing. Whereas the master, I call it the master manifestor, is really for doing the work. It's for moving energy. It's not necessarily for me to scry and spend long time looking into it, but to spend time sending energy into it. The clearer your stone, the more time you often are going to spend looking into it. Your stones do have a personality, Arisha. They do. You ain't crazy. You don't have to swear. They do have a personality, just like we do. They're as individual as we are. They're as unique as we are. There are no two quartz that are exactly alike, unless they man-made. And man can make quartz. Hello, man can make quartz. If the stone is too clear, I've got some crystal balls in here that are perfectly clear, that don't have anything going on the inside. But I know that they are melted down, re-solidified quartz. That's how they do that. They melt down quartz and then clarify it, take all the other minerals out of it, and re-solidify it. You also have lead crystal, which is a completely different thing altogether. It's not a mineral at all. And of course, obsidian. which is not a mineral, but it's actually volcanic glass, but it's used for its mirror-like properties and its black hole-like properties. But your stones, your crystals absolutely have personalities. I can remember a time my mama asked, well, why do you need so many? Because they do different things. They have different purposes. They help me to move through certain things. They help me to learn certain skills and gifts. A self-healed crystal teach you how to self-heal, teach you how to self-love. A self-healed crystal is going to look like it's broken off. It's going to look a little rough and rugged, but when you actually look at it up close and touch it, it's going to be smooth. And you're going to see where sometimes it'll have small pyramid-like formations that'll be very smooth, where the crystal has taught itself, has healed over where otherwise the break was. So self-healed crystals are great for self-healing, reminding yourself, teaching yourself how to heal, how to self-love. Rose quartz are good for self-love. Rose quartz are good for nurturing, mothering love. If you're using rose quartz for love and relationships, it takes the rarest form of rose quartz, and I mean rare, like so rare I can't get one for myself at this point. It's the pinkest, almost purple-like rose quartz, and transparent. Very rare, hard to get. We've over manufactured hematite. We've over manufactured rose quartz. Rose quartz as a natural terminator is almost impossible to get. So most of the rose quartz you're going to get is going to be polished. It's going to be polished. And so this is I call it Pepto-Bismol. So this is nurturing, mothering self-love, that form of healing love. If you're talking about love and relationships, you really want ruby and redder stones, but that's another common conversation. But the stones absolutely have a personality. Sometimes the stones are referred to Orisha as Devic, which means that they house a deity. They house a Loa. They house what we call a Dajab or a spirit. They are typically, Devic crystals are typically generators, which means they have a natural flat background, a natural flat bottom. This is natural. So this is cut or broke off from the cluster. It's not self-healed. Even though this is smooth to the touch, it's kind of rough and ragged. It has a little bit of frost on it, but this will be considered a generator, a natural generator. It's also a phantom, which is impossible for me to show you on camera. But if you look deep enough in this crystal, there's a phantom, meaning a copy of the outside of the crystal that's inside. And then like the layers of the tree, they stack on top of each other. And they change shape. This crystal has not always been a receiver. This started out as a projective crystal, more pointed. And as it grew, it became more of a receiver. This is a receiving generator. And it also has Devic, meaning a jinn or a Dajab that lives in it. So sometimes there's a spirit, nature spirit in the stone, attached to the stone, that gives it personality. But in most cases, the stone has a personality of itself. Like you all sometimes say your car have a personality, or your computer might have a particular personality. I know my computer in a way that you don't know my computer. My buttons and my settings are set up to me. This is a touch screen. If you don't know, I can touch it. I can use the keyboard if I want to. I don't have to use the keyboard. I know my system. Well, your stones will have a personality. And so that wearing the stone, typically when I buy a stone, purchase a stone, receive a stone for the first time, I try to limit my access to other stones. I don't even wear this, and I just focus on that stone. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It learns me, I learn it. That computer technology sort of thing sets in. It knows where to kick in. So when I'm not actively projecting energy through it, it knows when to. It knows when to receive. And also the wearing of it, I like to see it almost like a recording system. And so it helps you to remember. This is another strong personality stone. This is a twin, meaning two stones have naturally, organically grown together. It has been polished, so that's why it's reflecting light the way it is. It's been polished, so the records have been erased off of most of the sides except these two in the back. So it's been completely polished to allow for more light, more clarity, more vibration, to move from the inside of the stone out into your real world. And so this is great for love and relationships, for partnerships, for bringing two people, places, or things together. And what's funny is this is a twinned phantom. So each of these, this receiving side that seems more wide actually has a projector, a more pointed phantom inside it. And this side, if you could see inside, has a more flat, receptive phantom inside it. So this is one of my favorite twin quartz. And I use this a great deal in my work on love, relationships, marriages, partnerships. This stone hasn't been dropped. This is the way it was manufactured out of the ground. It's not chipped. It's actually absolutely smooth because they've polished it completely all over. This is also a manifesting quartz. So there's several small, these specks here in the back, here, here, are actually fully formed crystals that are embedded in the stone, and that's what makes it a manifesting stone. So I use this a great deal in love, relationships, partnerships, repairing the bonds, dissecting and repairing, um, and bringing two forces, two energies together. Greetings, beloved Wapani. I know I'm a little behind in my chat. That's my sister. That's my mom's daughter. Welcome, beloved. Peace and blessings, Imani Sankofa. Thank you so much for being present here with us again. Neophyte Bokua, Alafia, beloved. You don't come on air much. What's going on with you? You are also one of my more favored co-hosts. You always have something to say, something to share. Okay. Finally heading back to the West. Okay, I got you. Are you, not that it's my business, but are you on vacation or are you actually working, driving, trucking from Florida back to the West? Oh, Wapani says, it's only after I made my side table where I sit in the living room into my altar was I able to convert my general attitude in the house. Okay. Quartz with tourmaline. We call that tourmalated quartz. Yes. Himalayan sea salt lamp and amethyst. Yes, yes. One of my favorite pieces and favorite crystal balls, my more personal crystal ball. Quartz crystal is actually tourmalated quartz. But the tourmaline, some of you might be able to see it. It looked like a long black hair in the back of the quartz. Let me see if I can. But anyway, it has black tourmaline in it. Can y'all see that? But they're thin needle-like black tourmaline. There's one in particular that just jumps out. But it's tourmalated quartz. And yes, that tourmaline, that black tourmaline, many of us are already familiar with black tourmaline and its ability to draw out negative, to draw out dark energy, to draw out that heavier energy. But it's amplified in quartz, and then the quartz actually does that cleansing, purifying work at the same time. It's one of my favorite stones to work with. That is indeed one of my favorite pieces to work with. I also have a great relationship with the Himalayan sea salt, that pink sea salt lamp. Yes, and of course, a great piece of amethyst. And she says that it has been able to convert the general attitude um, in her house. And let me tell you, I don't think she would mind me saying my sister is a bit of a skeptic. I wouldn't say that she's the most, I'm going to just fall for it kind of sister. So she wouldn't say so if it wasn't real. She wouldn't say that it has converted anything in terms of energy in her house if she hadn't witnessed it firsthand. So I appreciate that. Um, Greetings, Lydia Morton. Welcome, beloved. Greetings. Thank you so much for being with us. Divine Self-Healing. Thank you, beloved. Neophyte Bokor. All is a blessing, beloved. We understand. All is indeed a blessing. I'm going to be here for maybe 15 more minutes. Denise Preston, what crystals would you use to change the mood of a classroom? I work with special needs high school students. I use some aromatherapy and meditation music for calming. That's great. You remind me of my mom. That's great. Always bringing new, innovative things to the classroom. I would suggest a great piece of amethyst. And let me tell you, it's not going to be cheap. You might actually, use some of your educator superpowers and communicate with a geologist, a museum that might contain geology-based items. You're going to get this cheaper. I'm going to tell y'all a secret, but y'all can't tell nobody now, okay? Now, if you go to like museums, even like the Smithsonian Museum, they got a gift shop in there. They got this. It's so much cheaper than going to a New Age shop. See, the New Age shop know what this is, know how you're going to use it, knows the specialization of your quartz. And so it's going to have a little bit higher price. Some of the best pieces I've gotten have been geologist specimens, school specimens. So you might be able to actually get a better price, if not a donation, if you just do a little bit of work. And if you do, beloved, let me know, because I can use a couple of pieces myself. But you want to get the deepest purple possible. You might want to get a little bit of some size, and then put it up high, like real high, on top of a bookshelf or something where, everybody can't necessarily touch it. Now, if you have a really big piece, a good, strong piece, you might be able to allow the children to touch it, to rub their hands on it. I've seen some pieces of that type, but they're usually $2,000 or $3,000. Maybe they sit on the floor and they might be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 feet tall. Geodes often, those might be safer on the ground where the kids can touch it. But a piece like what I just showed you, you want to have that elevated up somewhere and allow the energy to sort of project out into the room. Companion pieces to that would be your black tourmaline. Many of you in the room are already familiar with the black tourmaline. That would be a great companion piece. And another piece, surprisingly, that could be beneficial to your goal, specifically, to your goal, would be black obsidian as a large, sphere. Now, black obsidian, you can get a size of black obsidian the size of, a soccer ball, much cheaper than quartz. You might be able to get a size of black obsidian the size of a soccer ball for less than $100. But again, you want to keep it high. It is a volcanic glass, so if it's ever broken, it can break into shards. They use this for their arrow points. So it could break into, really dangerous shards. So you don't want them to damage it. So you definitely want to keep it up high and away. Black obsidian is like a black coal, and it'll draw out that energy. It'll draw it out. Now, a more hands-on stone is agate and alabaster. Large slabs of agate or alabaster. Kids can rub that, put their hands on it, but it's very calming, soothing, meditative type minerals. Malachite, meditative, calming, grounding type minerals. Those would be the first suggestions that would come to my mind. Wapani has also learned to incorporate larger stones into her bank of stones. I taught her that the larger stone, the more the energy, the output, and the absorb. Absolutely true. Sometimes, a smaller stone is enough for just you, but depending on how many people in your house, depending on the size of your family, depending on being an educator and dealing with the number of personalities and individuals a day, being healers, being practitioners, you might want larger pieces for that much more intense and further reach, of your energy and your work. You need to process all of that energy, Stones will leave you, stones will break, stones will shatter. We often refer to that as empathic stones. Sometimes a stone will absorb something that you were meant to absorb. And so they'll crack, they'll shatter. I've had stone jump completely out of my hand. I mean, listen, I'm saying, okay, completely out of my hand with no explanation at all. None. I'm walking a big stone too, bigger than this. One of the stones that my mama asked me, why did you pay $100 for that? It was a little bit bigger than this. It was shaped much wider at one end and narrow at the other. And then it had a double Terminator from end to end inside it, a phantom double Terminator. And I'm walking, loving it, been in Atlanta for maybe 3 days, and I'm crossing the street and it hits the curb and shatters into 2 or 3 pieces. And I still have the pieces in here somewhere, but they will absorb, and that was a time in my life when, man, we're talking about back in the 90s. I was suicidal. I remember being on the payphone and boo-hooing with my mom and saying my goodbyes because I was so sure that I was going to be suicidal. I was going to kill myself. I was at the end of my rope. I was at the end of my destination. I had no assistance, no help, and that stone leaped out of my hand. And I mean, it shattered. And it devastated me at first, for a few days. My $90 plus tax, it devastated me. And that was the last time that I've ever been suicidal. That was the last time that I've ever been to that dark place. And that was before I really learned and understood what empathic stones were. But they will absorb that hit for you. They will absorb that energy for you. They will absorb that curse, from you. And so they will shatter, damage, disappear. Sometimes stones are meant to be programmed through your energy, through your usage, through your examination, through your re-emitting energy back into the stone, and then move on to the next person or the next location. Not all stones, but some stones. And then I have stones that I've had since forever, that ain't got no chips on it, ain't got no damage on it. I mean, just since forever, and somehow have survived, almost everything. I've had crystals that I have dropped that are perfectly sound. Not a scratch, not a dent, not a chip, just, so some of them are empathic. Some of them have very, just like people, just like children. Why do children come? Just to leave. Why do children come? Not to stay. Why would a baby enter our world just to go? Is it God? Is it the devil? Is it the medical system? We have to process what's relatively true in our world, but is it also a spiritual thing? Is it also about a spiritual destiny that we don't always understand in the moment? So yeah, I've had stones disappear on me that hurt. I have stones that I can bring back in my memory right now that'll bring all that emotion back because I had bonded. But the good thing is, if you really bonded with a stone, you're still bonded to it. So I have sent energy back through the stones that I have lost. Often healing, positive, loving, empowering energy. Often. Often. A time or two, I've sent other type of energy. When my house was violated 5 years ago, I sent out other energy. When my house was violated, I cursed what was stolen. And as you all know the story, that person was dead in 7 days. So yeah, they will leave you. They have a purpose, just like we do, and sometimes when we don't respect them, when we don't acknowledge them, when we're not ready, they'll also leave, break, shatter. That was a great question, by the way, Denise Preston. And I'm sure you're going to reshare this information with your classroom. But you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Working, hustling, and bustling. I hear you, neophyte. I understand. Be careful about your word usage, but I got you. The Goddess Initiative says the amethyst is her BFF, and she keeps a huge rose quartz at her desk. That's great. Now, if I can, without your permission, I'm going to say that rose quartz helps you to be loving and to be rosy, just like that hat you got on in this picture, and pure, even when you might not want to be. That's why I hold on to my rose quartz. It helps me to keep the crunchy down. It helps me to keep the Joe Louis down in me. It helps, my father's nature not to rise, and for my mother's true nature, like Pepto-Bismol, to just, because I got the deep Pepto-Bismol called rosemary. I don't fool around with that faded rosemary. Not that it's not useful, but it's much denser. It's going to give you less of rose and more of quartz. Like this outfit I got on, just pink. And you can get a pink so close to fuchsia, but it's going to be very expensive. Very expensive. Yeah, amethyst will elevate that energy, elevates all energy and power, will rise everything to a higher level, especially you, and especially if you're conscious of it. Will remind you to keep balance. Red and blue make amethyst. Red and blue make amethyst. So it acknowledges the red part of your consciousness, the left brain and right brain hemispheres, red and blue in the amethyst. So that's a good choice, beloved. Greetings, Martha Martinez. Greetings, beloved. Thank you so much for being present with us again. The piece of amethyst that you held up is almost exactly like the one on my living room altar. Mine is a little bit bigger. Well, excuse me, because I know it costs more if it's a little bit big. Well, you do live in Missouri. Now, Missouri and the Ozarks, and they're right there where the crystal mines are. So she may be able to get some pieces a little bit cheaper than I can in Missouri. Yeah, size absolutely matters. Size matters, people. In this case, and often in many cases, size matters. It absolutely matters. You can't say I'm doing spirit work, I'm doing healing work, I'm processing my shadow work, I'm processing my past. If you're talking about I got quartz earrings on, if you're talking about I done bought a necklace at Walgreens, for $5 with that little bitty. Now those little bitty quartz, the more you know about them, they're useful, because often those little tiny quartz that they use, if you look at them, they got phantoms, they manifestors, they be twins, they have all kind of specialized quartz elements within them. That reminds me, I found the third book. We were talking about Katrina Raphael and her crystal book, and I held up two of her books and then said the third one wasn't in the room, or I couldn't find. But the third one is called Transmission of Synthesis of Light. The Crystalline Transmission of Synthesis of Light. And again, this is by Katrina Raphael. This is the third book. The third book in that collection. Have y'all noticed that I'll talk about something, show something on camera, and then the very next day I can't find it? That tells you how much activity really goes on here. And so things constantly move. I can't even find the other two books now, and I know they right in my face. But this will talk about the chakra system. She will talk about 12 chakras, not just the 7. She will go beyond sort of the basic generic information that we often get in the US about chakras. She will talk about the power of identification. If you don't know how to identify your crystals, what they are, what specialty, what's unique about that particular crystal, then you might as well stick to the dollar basket. You might as well, because you're missing out on the intricacies, the personalities of the stone and how they can best be applied for healing if you don't understand the power of identifying your stones. Surrendering to the divine impersonal. Practices and prerequisites. She talks about advanced skull structures. She talks about the 12 chakra systems, the 3 transpersonal chakras, the stellar gateway, the star or the soul star, the casual chakra, the earth star chakra. And in her book, she talks about application, laying on of stones, utilizing stones in healing grids. I know Tasha is into grids. So the Katrina Raphael books would be a great choice, Tasha. In this book in particular, she talks about selenite, the nature of selenite, from source to feeling, activating the soul star, all the cautions, selenite's mission. She talks about kyanite. She talks about calcite, like optical calcite. Mirrored harmonic perfection. She talks about hematite in this book. The Tao crystals, the tantric twins, Isis crystals, cathedral crystals. Those are cathedral-like structures that are built in stone. They look like churches and huge Gothic cathedrals, but they just quartz. She also talks about the Devic stones that I talked about earlier that actually house the Jab, Jinn, fairies, gnomes, elementals, if you will, and time link crystals that assist you in transcending time, going back into the past, particularly for healing work, for balance, repair, renewal, and then, of course, pre-programming the future, where you're headed, where you're going. Thank you so much, you all. Black Tourmaline to work to keep that negativity at bay. Girl, you must work. You must work in a heavy place. Yeah, if you carrying Black Tourmaline to work, yeah, you must work in a den of wolves. And keep it, and make sure you're cleansing it. Not necessarily, putting water to it, but cleansing it with light colored stones, quartz, selenite. If you can store it at night, on a shelf or wherever you're keeping it, store it in proximity to, if not touching on, amethyst, clear quartz, selenite. That would be great for re-empowering it. Goddess Initiative, are you a teacher also? What do you do? Marge Richer is asking, what do you do with empathic stones that have broken and taken a hit for you? Oh, that's a good question. I keep them. They may end up, and I'm probably saying too much, but they might end up in a gree or a doll or some other potion. I even add stones to potions, lotions. Someone yesterday, I believe it was Arisha, talked about stones and water. And so, yeah, I would then use them, in that regard. Sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes it can be hard, but you've invested time, money, energy, etc. But I find a way to utilize them. They still carry their power. They still carry their DNA footprint. They've just lost their original vibratory rate. You now alter the vibratory rate of that stone, because now it's in pieces, it's multiple pieces, and they still carry the mother footprint, but they're vibrating now at a different ratio because you've altered the shape and the size. Sometimes when I get a new stone, I can just ever so lightly, tap it with my silver, with my silver thumb ring, and it'll either be dense or I'll hear that high note. And that high note comes when the stone is unbroken, undamaged, unchipped. There's a tension in the stone. And so, not just tapping it, even just rubbing it, I'll hear a high frequency note. But once it has been dropped, damaged, chipped, often it'll then change its frequency and it won't vibrate at that same note. It'll move to a different range of note in terms of its usage. Okay, so you got a really good rose quartz. Go on with your bad self. You talk about the book I just held up, The Crystalline Transmission, a synthesis of light. Crystalline Transmission, a synthesis of light by Katrina Raphael. This is one book in the 3-book series that I talked about, that I shared yesterday or the day before yesterday. I'm not sure which day it was. Live on air. Here they are. The first 2 books were Crystal Enlightenment, transforming properties of crystals and healing stones. Crystal Enlightenment, the transforming properties of crystals and healing stones by Katrina Raphael. First book. Great book. I think I got this book, oh my God, probably months after it was published. What year was this book published in? But it's one in a 3-part series. I would say it's one of the best. 85. Oh my God, 85. So I've had not this book because it keeps getting stolen, lost, and replaced. But I've had this book probably since 86. Crystal Enlightenment, the transforming properties of crystals and healing stones. The second book is Crystal Healing, the Therapeutic Application of Crystals and Stones by Katrina Raphael. Crystal Healing, the Therapeutic Application of Crystals and Stones. That's the second book. And the third book is the Crystalline Transmission, a Synthesis of Light by Katrina Raphael. So again, these books were published 1 year after I graduated high school. And 2 years later, or a year after they were published, I own them and have had them ever since. So they are my go-to. Now I have other crystal books that are also my go-to. In fact, I have one that's a little bit more unabridged, and I use it a lot. It contains, crystals, that we often don't even think about. I have a smaller, more compact crystal book that I use because it's small and compact. I can carry it with me. It's called The Pocket Book of Stones. The Pocket Book of Stones, Who They Are and What They Teach. Revised and expanded edition with 47 new stones added by Robert Simmons. And I like this book because it's compact. It's small, like it says, the pocketbook size, and it has a great variety of stones in it that you don't find in some of the more basic crystal books. Some of the stones in this book too expensive for most of us to even buy or find somewhere, but indeed they are in here. And the descriptions are basic, for both the beginner and the advanced crystal healer or crystal user, but the variety in the book is overwhelming. So I'm gonna give you an example. Malachite is on one side of the page, and magnifier quartz. Magnifier quartz is on one side, and malachite is on the other. Keywords. It says keywords in enlightened leadership, creativity, confidence, protection, a healed heart, chakras, solar plexus, the third chakra, heart chakra, the fourth chakra. Element is fire, increases vitality physically, supports tissue repair and recovery from illness, recommended for inflammation, arthritis, digestion, detoxification. Its emotional usage, it aids in the building of self-confidence and emotional clarity. Its spiritual use facilitates psychic protection, manifestation, enhances willpower or will forces. And then it goes a great deal more into what malachite is. It's a copper ore derivative. It's a copper carbonate mineral, actually, with a monoclinic crystallized system and hardness, which is why it's shaped and grows so differently than other crystals or other minerals even in this family. This book almost has a tarot-like feel to it. So you could, whatever crystal you're looking at or using or referencing, and then it's going to have all these physical elements, spiritual elements, emotional elements to it, and how to best apply the stone. So that last book was one of my newer books. The Katrina Raphael books are probably the first crystal books I were ever exposed to and then held on. I also held on to a few other books, but I'll share them on another show. We've already done 2 hours. My sister says, yes, ma'am, that black tourmaline keeps other folks' negativity off of me when I go out into the world. I wear it on me along with chrysoprase, and rhodonite. Yes, indeed. You go, girl. Okay, she works in real estate. Okay, and I'm a mental health professional freelance as well. Okay, okay. Your stones will play a great role in every aspect of business for you. Yeah, the crystalline transmission, that's the other book that I didn't turn to go get. I let you. No, that's the first book. Yeah, I realize I'm behind on the chat. Yeah, that's the first. No, that's the last book. That's the second book. And that's the first book. Of course, the first book is what sold me on going back and getting the other books. I'm glad to hear Electro Vibes. Thank you, Lydia Morton. Listen, I would appreciate a donation, an offering. Beloved got a electric bill to pay, okay? And there ain't no acting jobs really happening right now. So I can use some help with my electric bill. I would certainly appreciate that. Send us an offering, a donation. You can use my PayPal link, paypal.me/The Divine Prince. You could also go to my website, www.houseofthedivineprince.com, where you'll also find that PayPal me link. You can also send me an email at Divine Prince. You can send me an email too, I should say, Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. And my automatic email response, when I respond to you, will always have my PayPal link included. So I would certainly appreciate it. Just show me your love, show me your value, Lydia Martin. But I appreciate you. I'm grateful. Thank you to Goddess Initiative. Yes, ma'am. I use these books all the time. Yeah, crystal healing. Yeah, there's healing in the earth. There's several books that I pull from. I would love a floor amethyst geode, like 6 foot tall. You know, when I get rich and famous, I'm gonna buy me a floor length, floor model amethyst geode. And wide enough for me to stand in to back and stand in and back into. Yeah, one of those, the kinds you see at the museum. Yes. Yeah, I remember you have a newborn and a newborn crystal for Christmas, and her 9-year-old a laminated wall chart. Okay. Yes, let them know, let them understand crystals, minerals, and stones from a very young age. I learned so young, I was walking into government buildings and was questioning why the floors and the walls, you know, were all of a particular mineral or a particular type. And of course, nobody could tell me, you know, not from this magical perspective from which we understand it. But think about it. Why are these Masonic design state buildings and government buildings, you know, just heaped with marble and stone, you know, and rosemary and quartzite? Durability, yes. Length and how long they last, yes. But they also are collecting and holding great energies, great amounts of energy. Yes, I would certainly appreciate it. I'm in the danger zone on my electricity, so I could really use some support and some love. And quiet as it's kept, I'm pushing it on my internet as well. Like many, you know, the pandemic has caught up. But all is a blessing. All is a blessing. Thank you so much, Denise Preston. Thank you all for being present. I certainly appreciate you, love you, support you in all that you do in all of your beloved endeavors. I certainly appreciate your email requests. I am doing readings and consultations. I am doing work. I am doing initiations. I am doing ancestral work and divination. I am doing Ori work. So I look forward to connecting with you both on and off air. And I certainly appreciate you being present with me again for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and temporary, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Ashe, Asheo, Ashe. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe, may Ebo reach a rune, may Ebo be accepted, may Ebo allow what we desire to come to pass. Ashe.